Bible in a Year Live, Chronological Project, Week 47, Day 2, Complete Jewish Bible. Remember to join us on Sunday evenings at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom, where we gather to read through the Bible live. We only have a few weeks left in the year, so consider joining us. Let's dig in. After 5 days, the Kohen Haggadol, Hananiah, came down with some elders and a lawyer named Tertullus, and they presented their case against Shaul to the governor. Shaul was called, and Tertullus began to make the charges. Felix, your excellency, it is because of you that we enjoy unbroken peace, and it is your foresight that has brought to this nation so many reforms in so many areas. It is with the utmost gratitude that we receive this. But in order not to take up too much of your time, I beg your indulgence to give us a brief hearing. We have found this man a pest. He is an agitator among all the Jews throughout the world and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazratim. He even tried to profane the temple, but we arrested him. By questioning this man yourself, you will be able to learn all about the things of which we are accusing him. The Judeans also joined in the accusation and alleged that these were the facts. When the governor motioned for Shaul to speak, he replied, I know that you have been judge over this nation for a number of years, so I am glad to make my defense. As you can verify for yourself, it has not been more than 12 days since I went up to worship in Jerusalem, and neither in the temple nor in the synagogues nor anywhere else in the city did they find me either arguing with anyone or collecting a crowd, nor can they give any proof of the things of which they are accusing me. But this I do admit to you, I worship the God of our fathers, in accordance with the way which they call the sect. I continue to believe everything that accords with the Torah and everything written in the prophets, and I continue to have hope in God, which they too accept, that there will be a resurrection of both the righteous and the unrighteous. Indeed, it is because of this that I make a point of always having a clear conscience in the sight of both God and man. After an absence of several years, I came to Jerusalem to bring a charitable gift to my nation and to offer sacrifices. It was in connection with the latter that they found me in the temple. I had been ceremonially purified. I was not with a crowd, and I was not causing a disturbance. But some Jews from the province of Asia, they ought to be here before you to make a charge if they have anything against me. Or else, let these men themselves say what crime they found me guilty of when I stood in front of the Sanhedrin, other than this one thing which I shouted out when I was standing among them. I am on trial before you today because I believe in the resurrection of the dead. But Felix, who had a rather detailed knowledge of things connected with the way, put them off, saying, When Lysias the commander comes down, I will decide your case. He ordered the captain to keep Shaul in custody, but to let him have considerable liberty and not prevent any of his friends from taking care of his needs. After some days, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish. He went for Shaul and listened to him as he spoke about trusting in the Messiah, Yeshua. But when Shaul began to discuss righteousness, self-control, and the coming judgment, Felix became frightened and said, For the time being, go away. I will send for you when I get a chance. At the same time, he hoped that Shaul would offer him a bribe, so he went for him rather often and kept talking with him. After 2 years, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus, but because Felix wanted to grant the Judeans a favor, he left Shaul still a prisoner. 3 days after Festus had entered the province, he went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem. There, the head Kohanim and the Judean leaders informed him of the case against Shaul, and they asked him to do them the favor of having the man sent to Jerusalem. They had plotted to have him ambushed and killed en route. Festus replied that Shaul was being kept under guard in Caesarea, and that he was about to go there shortly himself. So he said, Let competent men among you come down with me and press charges against the man if he has done something wrong. After staying with them at most 8 or 10 days, Festus went down to Caesarea, and on the following day he took his seat in court and ordered Shaul to be brought in. When he arrived, the Judeans who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him, bringing more serious charges against him, which they could not prove. In reply, Shaul said, I have committed no offense, not against the Torah to which the Jews hold, not against the temple, and not against the emperor. But Festus, wanting to do the Judeans a favor, asked Shaul, Would you be willing to go up to Jerusalem and be tried before me there on these charges? Shaul replied, I am standing right now in the court of the emperor, and this is where I should be tried. I have done no wrong to the Judeans, as you very well know. If I am a wrongdoer, if I have done something for which I deserve to die, then I am ready to die. But if there is nothing to these charges which they are bringing against me, no one can give me to them just to grant a favor. I appealed to emperor. Then Festus, after talking with his advisers, answered, You have appealed to the emperor. You will go to the emperor. After some days, King Agrippa and Bernice arrived in Caesarea to pay their respects to Festus. Since they were staying on there for some time, Festus had the opportunity to acquaint the king with Shaul's situation. There is a man here, he said, who was left behind in custody by Felix. When I was in Jerusalem, the head Kohanim and the elders of the Judeans informed me about him and asked me to pronounce judgment against him. My answer to them was that it is not the custom with Romans to give up an accused man just to grant a favor, before he has met his accusers face to face and had the opportunity to defend himself against the charge. So when they arrived here with me, I did not delay, but took my seat in court the next day and ordered the man brought in. When the accuser stood up, instead of charging him with some serious crime as I had expected, they disputed with him about certain points of their own religion, and particularly about somebody called Yeshua, who had died, but who Shaul claimed was alive. Being at a loss as to how to investigate such questions, I asked him if he would be willing to go to Jerusalem and be tried on these matters there. But since Shaul appealed to be kept in custody and have his case decided by his imperial majesty, I ordered him held until I could send him to the emperor. Agrippa said to Festus, I myself have been wanting to hear the man. Tomorrow, he replied, you will hear him. So the next day, Agrippa and Bernice came with much pageantry. They entered the audience room, accompanied by military commanders and the prominent men of the city. Then, at the command of Festus, Shaul was brought in. Festus said, King Agrippa and all of you here with us, do you see this man? The whole Judean community has complained to me about him, both in Jerusalem and here, crying that he shouldn't be allowed to remain alive. But I discovered that he had done nothing that deserves a death sentence. Now, when he himself appealed to the emperor, I decided to send him. However, I have nothing specific to write to his majesty about him. This is why I have brought him before all of you, and especially before you, King Agrippa, so that after we have examined him, I might have something to write. It seems irrational to me to send a prisoner without also including what the charges against him are. Agrippa said to Shaul, You have permission to speak on your own behalf. Then Shaul motioned with his hand and began his defense. King Agrippa, I consider myself fortunate that it is before you today that I am defending myself against all these charges made against me by Jews, because you are so well informed about all the Jewish customs and controversies. Therefore, I beg you to listen to me patiently. So then, all Jews know how I lived my life from my youth on, both in my own country and in Jerusalem. They have known me for a long time, and if they are willing, they can testify that I have followed the strictest party in our religion. That is, I have lived as a paroush. How ironic it is that I stand on trial here because of my hope in the promise made to our fathers. It is the fulfillment of this very promise that our 12 tribes hope to attain as they resolutely carry on their acts of worship night and day. Yet it is in connection with this hope, Your Majesty, that I am being accused by Jews. Why do you people consider it incredible that God raises the dead? I used to think it was my duty to do all I could to combat the name of Yeshua from Nazareth, and in Jerusalem I did so. After receiving authority from the head Konaim, I myself threw many of God's people in prison when they were put to death. I cast my vote against them. Often, I went from one synagogue to another, punishing them and trying to make them blaspheme. And in my wild fury against them, I even went so far as to persecute them in cities outside the country. On one such occasion, I was traveling to Damascus with the full authority and power of the head Kohanim. I was on the road, and it was noon, Your Majesty, when I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, shining around me and my traveling companions. We all fell to the ground, and then I heard a voice saying to me in Hebrew, Shaul, Shaul, why do you keep persecuting me? It's hard on you to keep kicking against the ox goads." I said, "Who are you, sir?" And the Lord answered, "I am Yeshua, and you are persecuting me. But get up and stand on your feet. I have appeared to you to appoint you to serve and bear witness to what you have already seen of me, and to what you will see when I appear to you in the future. I will deliver you from the people and from the Goyim. I am sending you to open their eyes so that they will turn from darkness to light, from the power of the adversary to God, and thus receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who have been separated for holiness by putting their trust in me." So, King Agrippa, I did not disobey the vision from heaven. On the contrary, I announced first in Damascus, then in Jerusalem, and throughout Judah, and also to the Goyim, that they should turn from their sins to God, and then do deeds consistent with that repentance. It was because of these things that Jews seized me in the temple and tried to kill me. However, I have God's help. So to this day I stand testifying to both small and great, saying nothing but what both the prophets and Moshe said would happen, that the Messiah would die, and that he, as the first to rise from the dead, would proclaim light to both the people and the Goyim. But just as he reached this point in his defense, Festus shouted at the top of his voice, "Shaul, you're out of your mind. So much learning is driving me crazy." But Shaul said, "No, I am not crazy, Festus, your excellency. On the contrary, I am speaking words of truth and sanity. For the king understands these matters, so to him I express myself freely, because I am sure that none of these things have been hidden from him. After all, they didn't happen in some back alley. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you believe." Agrippa said to Shaul, "In this short time, you're trying to convince me to become messianic?" Shaul replied, "Whether it takes a short time or a long time, I wish to God that not only you, but also everyone hearing me today might become just like me, except for these chains." Then the king got up, and with him the governor and Bernice and the others sitting with them. After they had left, they said to one another, "This man is doing nothing that deserves either death or prison." And Agrippa said to Festus, "If he hadn't appealed to the emperor, he could have been released."